guys, welcome. I am so excited to be here on this Sunday morning out here in California anyway. And I am so excited to talk to everybody. Oh, this is going to be a super fun morning because we are going to do our very first masterclass. And I've got Megan with me and I've got Dana with me. So we are going to have a blast. Say hello, everybody.
Hi, guys. I'm so excited for today. I could actually hardly sleep last night. This is our first masterclass, and honestly, it's the most perfect topic because Lisa, with her experience and her vast amount of knowledge, she's going to let you guys know things that you couldn't, your average person couldn't possibly know, but it's critical information. And so today, you're getting your money's worth. So I'm really, me too. I'm really excited to be here. And we have Dana.
Hey guys, it's me guys. And I know that I'm usually not on camera. I'm always behind the camera doing things. But what I wanted to tell you guys was that there's going to be a new format today, and it's going to be very different. So what we wanted to do is we have this vast library inside the Design Club, and we have all these books. We have hundreds of books in there. Do we have hundreds of books, Megan? I don't know if we have that.
Not yet.
Hundreds,
but we're working on that. We're getting there.
Well, so we all suggested that we would start with how to start a project. And it's a very complicated subject. And so we're going to actually use the book from the library. Lisa's going to use the book from the library. And I'm going to be running the book as we do this. And we're going to kind of use that book as a visual aid instead of us going through that. So we'll do that for a while. And then we're going to get to your questions. And hopefully, and if you want to ask questions, just go ahead and go into the, the Q&A. Ask questions if it's about what Lisa's talking about, or go into chat, and Megan and I will be monitoring chat and that. So that's the way that's going to work. Yay!
Yay!
Yay! Good. Excellent. And we've already got people calling in. We've got Roxanne, who I know is from a tiny little country. She said up north, not quite sure which one. And we've got Gladys and Jonathan. Good morning, Jonathan. I hope you're staying warm in Canada today. And we've got Roxanne. Oh, we've got all kinds of people that are coming in. So I'm super excited. And I looked over a bunch of questions. So we'll be hitting those kind of at the end of today's lesson. So, but let's jump in right away, because this whole subject to me is a super important subject, and I hope you have your pens and pencils ready, because if any of you, and I know a lot of you actually do, have some projects that you're going to get started with sometime kind of this year, this is going to be so invaluable. And like Dana said, the book is there in the library that you can always refer back to, but you can also take a look at this masterclass. And so anyway, so that's going to be really super helpful. So here we go with this. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little about it in stages, because the most important thing that you can possibly do to have a successful project. And guys, I don't mean just, building a new house or renovating your kitchen or anything like that. I'm talking about if you're just, refreshing your living room or redoing your floors or something along those lines. Those may feel like smaller projects, but I always say this, it's like I've done thousands and thousands of hotel rooms over the years, and I use the same system. And the reason is because the hotels and homes require the same process to have it get done successfully. And so it's easy. There's just more to do with hotels than there is with, say, your project on your home, but the system is the same. So here we go. Let's roll it out. Number one thing that you want to be sure that you are doing is of course planning, which is what we've been talking about all along. But the number one thing is that there's 4 main parameters that you want to think about. And this actually isn't in the book, but what I want you to have a kind of an overall view of is that these 4 things that we need to kind of prepare for before we start a project of any kind. I mean, swinging a hammer or anything. And the first parameter that you really want to have buttoned up is your inspiration. What does that mean, Megan?
Inspiration? Well, basically, it's anything that you look at. Like you can go to Pinterest, for example, and find beautiful things, or it could even just be like a painting or a color or really anything that moves you. You just kind of gather it together in a lookbook, and you'll notice that the more pieces, if you will, that you put together, it'll start to have kind of a cohesive theme. And Lisa will get into details about that here in just a second.
That's right. That's right. That's exactly right. So the number one thing is inspiration. The number two thing, is your scope of work. Now, I know you don't know what that means quite yet. We'll go into that. Number three thing is, as we call in the book, the B word, or the budget. Super important that you have a ballpark understanding of what it is you can do and what you can spend. And then the number four thing is your schedule, or what I call your critical path. That's a term that we use when we're doing large construction projects, but you could think of it maybe if you're working with a smaller project as a timeline. And so you want to make sure that all four of those things are buttoned down. And this book is going to show you how to do that and more. All right. So number one thing that we always think about when we start thinking about doing a fun project is kind of what do we want the project to look like at the end, right? So what is our inspiration? And that can be everything from, helping define what your style wants to look like for the project. Dana, could you go to, let's go back to page 4. Yes. And so 4 in the book talks a little bit about, again, what Megan was mentioning, which was kind of, gathering up something and going, this is my inspiration. Like she
Lisa,
said, maybe.
can I interrupt you for a minute?
Sure.
Okay, so
Sure,
guys,
Dana.
we have a little bit of an issue with our book. One is that the way the computer program wants to number the pages is different than what we number the pages, because the computer likes to number the cover as page 1. So I just need to clarify from Lisa really quick. Lisa, do you want to see the previous page, or are you good here?
No, I'm perfect with this page. Thank you, Dana, for asking.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I wanted to kind of go over this with everybody, kind of, because it's where we talk about the lookbook a little bit. So
Okay.
You all may have heard of the phrase lookbook. That was what we used to do ages ago before we had, computers. But the whole idea of lookbook is grabbing that imagery. Maybe it's a photograph, maybe it's pages out of a magazine, anything that can come together. I have often met with clients and they've handed me this manila folder just stuffed full of all these kinds of images that they've been collecting for years. And the truth of it is, if you've been thinking about doing something, you're going to be starting to be aware around you of images that maybe look like kitchen cabinets that you love, or maybe it's a new flooring finish that you haven't seen before that you're interested in. So all of those things kind of need to be saved into this one, what we call lookbook space. And I have used a Pinterest system for years in my offices that works all the way through from the very beginning of the project, which is where we are right now, all the way through to literally the end once you've installed. Now, today, because we're really only talking about how to start your project, we're only going to talk about the first 2 phases. Isn't that right, Megan?
Yeah. Today is just how to start a project. But honestly, I think what we should do, Lisa, is do another masterclass on the second part, which is project management, being the animal that is. So that's my vote.
You know what, Megan, that's a great idea, because you know what, guys, you can think of it this way. Any project that's going to last longer than a month requires management. And so there's a whole nother book already in the library, isn't there, Megan?
Yes, there is.
Yes.
So there will be more.
Yeah, on project management. So we're not even going to touch that today. We're going to touch literally, how do you get off the mark? How do you get unstuck? How do you start your project and go forward? And the number one thing, like I said, is organizing your inspiration. So I use the Pinterest system. And so what you want to do is gather a bunch of imagery, put it all together in the Pinterest system. And initially, You're just going to place it in there so that you've got that. But like Megan said, what happens is over a period of time, you begin to look at these images and you go, I see repeating patterns. And so what you'll do is you'll take those repeating patterns and you'll move those over to a second board. And those repeating patterns could be anything. It depends upon what your project's involving. Maybe if you're doing a kitchen renovation, maybe it's a whole series of shaker style cabinets. Maybe it's a really fantastic looking ceramic floor. Maybe it's this fabulous farmhouse sink that you're looking at, and it keeps repeating and you keep seeing it in these images. And so what that says to you is that speaking to things that are really what's in your heart and what you're really wanting to have the space maybe include or have it be made up of in a certain way. So that's kind of your second phase of the system, is that you all of a sudden are able to define certain design elements that you'll want to make sure that you include as you go forward. Now, don't worry about the rest of the system for right now, but that is how you begin to put your lookbook together on things. So that's a super important first step when you're starting a project. Okay.
And
so,
Lisa, we also have a Lisa's Brain article that details your Pinterest system quite a bit. And so what I'll do is I'll link that in the chat for you guys.
Oh, that would be great. That would be great. And Dana, are people able, if there's something that I have not made clear, are people able to ask a question in the chat?
Yes, so you can ask questions in the chat. You also can ask questions in the Q&A. I mean, you can do either one.
Great.
I'd say if you have a real question, throw it in the Q&A, and both Megan and I will be monitoring that for you.
Oh, and I'm looking over here at the string, by the way, and I'm seeing Pat Logan. Howdy, Pat. How are you today? I'm very glad to see you here. Kelly B, Yannick, Connick. Oh my gosh, we've got some great folks here. So yay, I'm super excited. I hope we're going to really help everybody get flying off the mark with their projects here. Okay, so the second phase of starting your project is understanding what your scope of work is. Now, Pat, I know you know what this is because you're an architect, but for many people, and I got to see what page that's on. Let me go back to my thumbnails real quick. Here we go. It looks like it's page 5, Dana, in the book. Maybe you could show that.
Is this what you're talking about?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I read the wrong number. Page 10. No, we already did that. Yes, there we go. It's a picture of a kitchen. I keep talking about kitchens because I know a lot of you out there have been asking me kitchen questions, but there's lots of other projects that require this planning process to be engaged before you start them. So it's not just kitchens, it can be anything. So scope of work, guys. So let's talk a little bit about what a scope of work is. What that means is it's basically going to be everything that you're going to try and accomplish in this project. Now, don't worry about the fact that you may not have enough money or time or any of those things. You want to just write down what your wish list is of things that you need to get done. Okay. So if it's a complete kitchen renovation and you have an existing kitchen, then, if you have an existing kitchen and it's a renovation, then what you want to do is literally start by demoing out the kitchen. You're going to be doing all of those things. So you want to write all of those things down. That's what gets included in your scope of work. Now, to help you understand what to include in your scope of work, you want to, there's a secondary set of parameters that we work with when we're starting a project. And these are pertaining to your scope of work. And this has to do with the first thing that you want to think about is, what is your architectural statement of your structure? So we can never escape that, right? When we're looking at what we're going to be doing with our projects, if you live, in an industrial loft in downtown Chicago, and you're really kind of wanting to rock the coastal beach theme, those are going to be very unhappy together, number one. So that's a style statement. And then number two, if you're looking at your architecture and you're going, do I need to expand my kitchen? Do I need to add square footage? Maybe I'm adding a second floor to my house. Maybe I'm demoing out a little wall between the kitchen and the dining room. So you need to look at what your architecture is and make sure you're including that into your scope of work, or including any changes that you want to be making into your scope of work. Okay. The second thing that you need to do kind of a little bit of an analysis of, and I'm a huge fan of spreadsheets, but you don't have to use spreadsheets. You can just scratch it down on paper or notepads or whatever works, whatever little system works for you is fine. But you want to do an analysis, if you have an existing home, of what is staying and what is going. And that means everything. So that's including your finishes, that's including your furnishings, your lighting, everything. So if you're doing a kitchen renovation, we're going to work that example for a little bit. Are you keeping the floor? If you're keeping the floor, then that's a parameter that you need to include. Okay. If you are changing up your floor, that's also a parameter you need to include. So you need to understand, by creating the scope of work, everything that you need to do. And sometimes this is a little bit hard because you kind of go, oh, but I really love that sofa and I kind of want to keep it, but it may not fit into my new plan. So I'm going to put this down and say, ? Will I use this or will I get new? So that's all included in the scope of work so that you understand kind of what needs to happen. Now, this is a super, super important step for anybody who's going to be doing construction. If you're just doing a fluff or a redo, and maybe it's just a quick paint job or something, scope of works are important from what we call an FF&E standpoint, or the furniture, fixtures, and equipment standpoint. But the real place where the scope of work comes into play and is essential to have is, if you're going to be doing construction, you're going to be needing that scope of work to hand to a contractor so that he understands exactly what it is he's going to be engaged to do. All right. So that's a really important thing that you kind of need to button down. And again, it can be a wish list, because you may go, well, I don't have the ability to do my kitchen and my bathroom in this whole scope of work, but it's okay, because you can always phase out. And we'll get to that in the next part of the How to Start a Project, which discusses timeline. Okay. So the third thing that you want to make sure that you're including in your scope of work is, so the term that we use is programming for your needs. Now, what does that really mean? What that means is, Megan, yes, thank you. Okay, there. So next page over is, how are you going to live in your space? So that's a really important question to ask yourself. If this is a new space for you of any kind, maybe you're just moving from one house to another that's existing, or maybe you're going from a rental to a new home, it doesn't really matter. But if you're changing the space, you want to make sure that you understand how you want to live in the space. Maybe, I'm going to use the kitchen example again, maybe you're becoming a major chef, or you've decided that you really love cooking. So you want to emphasize more elements about your kitchen than maybe you had in the previous kitchen. All right. Or maybe, for instance, you've just had a baby and now you have a toddler running around the house, or you're going to be having a toddler running around the house. And so you're going to need to have room to do certain things in those spaces that incorporate little people. So it really all depends. It's completely up to you, but you have to kind of project a little bit and say, I really love this, but you know what? I would really love light over here on this side. I wonder if I can open up a window or maybe open up part of a wall here or get light in somehow. Maybe I need to add electricity. Somehow or another, this dark spot doesn't work for me, and I'm going to make that, I need to make that happen. Or last example, which I know so many of us can relate to, is, damn, I'm now working at home. So I need to really figure out a decent, reasonable, work from home condition. So that's a very, very valid element that you need to include into your programming and how you live in the space. So,
Lisa,
yes.
Can I jump in here for a second?
Sure.
Okay, so Megan, we have two questions from Angela Cox in Seattle, I'm assuming. And can you answer the first question, I think would be yours.
Can we print out the books?
Yes.
Honestly, I am not sure that you can do that directly from the site. I saw that you mentioned in chat to do screenshots, and that way you could capture the image and print that out. But let me get back to you on that, Angela, if that's okay. I want to reach out to our developer and see if we can't make that easier for you. And she has a second question too, actually. This is for Lisa, and I think she asks, where do we start as an entryway, outside, inside? And I think what she's saying is like in a specific, let's say if we're doing like a whole house remodel, like what space do you start in?
Oh, that's a very good question, actually. And I've kind of, that's a really good question. So here's the deal. If you are literally doing a whole house, either renovation or new construction, it's essential that you apply these rules that we're talking about in this masterclass to this space. And one of the most important things that you need to think about is, how do I live in this space? And so the spaces that you live in and you use every day are the most important. So your master or your main bedroom and bathroom condition and your kitchen condition are essential. To be honest, you may not have guests in that house for, a year. It doesn't really matter, but you need to make sure that the programming and the renovation space, the renovation dollars and budget and timeline is initially placed into the spaces where you spend time. So work from home, kitchen, bathrooms, bedrooms. Those are the bedrooms for you and your family. So those are the most important things. All the other spaces, entryways, even exterior, guys, exterior budget, to me, in my mind, is always secondary, because you're living there and who cares what the neighbors think. You need to make sure that you can work in your kitchen. And so you spend your dollars there first. You can cook a meal at night and you can get your work done during the day if you're working from home. So those are the four essentials: is where do you live? Where do you spend all the time? And that's where you start. Good question, actually. Thank you, because I didn't really tuck into that one. Okay. So
in chat, she's actually saying, thank you, Lisa. I think we're doing good. The kitchen is what we are using our budget for.
Oh, excellent. Excellent. That's great. All right, good. And we're going to get to budget in a second. So the fourth parameter that you need to nail down when you're working on your scope of work is you need to begin to make a stab at what we call space planning, but what is really kind of doing layouts. So, and it's super important that you understand your space. So for those of you all that are moving into, say, new homes, a little tougher because, you've been working with plans and maybe you've seen the construction work coming up. But what you need to do is you need to be able to lay out a plan and understand kind of where those things are where those things need to go that are necessary for you to live in the space the way step number 3 outlined, right? So, we've got a little floor plan here that you can take a look at in the book, and this is a perfect example, which is that you need to outline, where are your entrances? Where are your entrances and exits? Where are your windows? Where are any stairs or defined traffic patterns? Now, there's two types of traffic patterns. There's defined and undefined, right? So defined is a staircase. Obviously, that is only for traffic. But an undefined traffic pattern is, how do you flow around your sofa? How do you get around your sofa? Or what's the most reasonable area from the sofa to the sliding glass doors or something like that? Those are traffic patterns. Those are secondary traffic patterns that are undefined. So when you're looking at your plan, and Megan, what is the document that we have that covers how to do plans if people are sketching them by hand or if they are wanting to work on them by computer?
We actually have them referenced in several of our documents, but I also wanted to mention that we have, it should be releasing here in maybe a week or two, a furniture measurements guide. And that would be a perfect little companion piece for anyone who is doing space planning right now. And basically it goes room by room and covers the different measurements of different furnishings. So whether it's like bar stools or dining tables or all the different mattress sizes. And also Lisa mentioned the traffic patterns, the inches that you need from the wall to like your sofa. And so it's in both inches and centimeters. So it should be pretty useful, I think.
So all you guys in the rest of the world, we have you covered on those centimeters.
Yeah.
So, and those are standards that we use here in the US, like 30 inches for a passage, 36 for ADA. ADA means American Disabilities Act. And so if someone has a need for someone who might be in a wheelchair, you're definitely going to need to think about 36 inches or the metric equivalent of that so that they have room to get around.
Yeah, so Lisa, I think that we hit the mother load on that because look at the chat right now. Everybody's going.
Are you going to use both measurements?
Yeah, can't wait.
Everyone's maybe we need to get that going. Date on that.
I love that. Oh, Debbie B says we could use that now. How fast can we get that out, Megan?
Look, you know what? Pretty quick. Let's bump it up then. How about next week?
Next week. Let's do it.
Okay.
Megan, yay. Okay, very good. Okay, great. All right, great. So literally, guys, popping back to kind of that floor plan layout and knowing your space basically defines understanding how you'll be in the space. And you can just ballpark a dining room table if you don't know which one you're going to use yet. Don't even worry about that. Ballpark a sofa, ballpark, those kinds of things. Ballpark the length of your kitchen island. Maybe it doesn't really work at 7 feet. Maybe it needs to be 5. You just have to kind of play with those things a little bit to just sort of see what makes the most sense, kind of in plan so that you've got living spaces and traffic patterns that all sort of work together. So that's all involved in your scope of work and defines what that scope of work is going to look like. Okay, so guys, now it happens. Step number 3 is the B word. Ooh, and I know some of you are like freaking out going, no, I don't want to talk about budget. But the reality of budgets is that we all have to have one. And so that is page 21, Dana, in the book. Now, I'm going to just mention one thing, which is that there is a section in the book on, after you have done those 2 steps, you may want to consider getting consultants on board. I know some of you have asked me about how to hire a designer for your area. And the book kind of touches a little bit on that because this is the point where you would do that. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, sorry. My brain and my mouth were not connected enough this morning. I'm sorry. So we have more documents that are on how to do that. And Megan, can you tell them the other things that are coming up about if they're interested in hiring a designer?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So we are going to be creating an article on specifically how to do that. The book also that we're looking at right now, How to Start a Project, mentions it as well. And if you look at Lisa's Brain, we have 2 Lisa's Brain articles. One is how much does an interior designer actually cost? So it kind of gives you that breakdown. And also, what's the difference between an interior decorator and an interior designer? Because they are very different. And so,
Yes.
yeah, go check those out for sure. And I'll link them in the chat for you guys.
Yes, no, that's really great. I really appreciate you mentioning that because
Yeah.
it's super important. And Dana, you might want to mention something too.
What do I want to mention? What are you talking
Well,
about?
about what's coming in March.
Oh, well, we have a lot coming in March. Let me just tell you, I don't know if you guys seen the club lately, but we have a whole section on like random thoughts from Lisa. That's at the very beginning. We have a new releases area. Everything that comes out new gets released there. So you don't have to search through the site to find out what's new. It just pops in there, but it goes through pretty quickly because we're constantly putting new stuff in there. Also, I wanted to mention that in the questions in the chat, Demetra says, I don't trust designers. I'm concerned that they want to push their style on me. So she has a point in a way.
Demetra, the reality of it is a lot of professionals have a look that people will come to them for, and they expect to reproduce that look with any of their clients. So there is a little bit of that happens. There also are designers out there that are a little bit more like us, that will kind of listen in and understand kind of what it is that you need. So it's really a choice that you need to make. And here's where I would say, just as a ballpark or a rule of thumb, which is that you're getting an amazing amount by being members of the club. You're getting an amazing amount of professional information. So I would only probably suggest that you need a designer if you're doing something extremely complicated, like building an entirely new house from scratch, and you may need an architect and a structural engineer. You may need a designer, you may not. You may feel like what you're getting from the club is enough. So, but that we've reserved for, kind of that situation. So everybody else, I think that maybe isn't doing something that complicated, may be able to kind of like find their designer.
So I'm going to say this to everybody. I'm Lisa's partner in this business. And so I want to let them know a little bit about something that we're doing, which is we are, for people that have larger projects and literally want Lisa to come on board as kind of a personalized coach, we are having a way for you guys to engage with Lisa in a fairly private manner, where there will be Zoom calls and she will be speaking to you about your projects and looking at your drawings and your furniture selections and all that type of stuff. So there's going to be a whole nother level of access to Lisa. Obviously, that's going to be a little bit of a more expensive proposition, but it's really, really inexpensive when you consider everything that you're getting and that you're getting to work with Lisa and the team here. So anyway, that's coming in March.
Yes. Oh my gosh, we've got so much exciting stuff happening this year. Okay, so let's jump back into budgets. Okay, the for some people, the dirty word. So it's not really a dirty word. It's an essential part of how to prepare for a project. So here's the way I want you to think about the budget, which is that you need to include everything. Do not edit yourself at this phase. Don't go, oh, I know I don't really have the money for that right now. Just write everything down, because what you need to know is what will be the reality of your wish list, because you can always phase things out. And we'll talk about again when we get that to the timeline. But I want you to not edit and include everything that you know you need to do. And there's a couple of things that I want to talk about that you may not even know about that you need to include. So I think, budgets, when you're doing a project, it's fairly obvious. Either you're purchasing new furnishings, you want to include all of those things. And maybe you don't have a number for the exact sofa because you haven't selected it yet. Don't worry, you're not in that phase yet. If you haven't selected it yet, you kind of get a ballpark from, oh gosh, they could probably even go look at the store and look at, just some ballpark pricing on something like that and throw a number in to the budget just so that you have it. And then the second thing I want to say about budgets is that unless you are seeking out a financial aid package to do a renovation, okay, here in the US, there's a lot of loans like SBA and things like that. You're going to need to be super tight with this budget. But if it's just you self-funding any of your work, then you need to have that ballpark for your own reasons, but you don't have to be as to the penny as you do if you're submitting for financing. So that's a little side note. But one of the things that you want to make sure that there's a couple of things that I want to make sure that you don't miss in including into your budget. And there are things that are kind of invisible on things. Is the obvious things are anything that you're going to need to purchase, right? And that could be anything from flooring, tile, light fixtures, down to light bulbs, guys, furnishings, decor, any of those kinds of things you need to, of course, put into your budget, costs for. Now, another thing is, if you're buying, say you're wanting to install a wood floor or a tile floor or a stone floor, something like that, you're also going to need to include labor for that. And if you don't know where to go, you're kind of going, I have no idea. There's a way you can kind of research online and look up the pricing for your area, because the cost to do it in South Africa or Canada or here in California will be vastly different. So you want to kind of get a ballpark, and you can look at places like, I think there's House, Angie's List, things like that, to get a rough estimate, or you can just literally Google, how much does it cost per square foot or per square meter to install a wood floor? Boom. And you'll get a ballpark range, okay? And that will help you go on the high end, all right? I'll tell you why in a second. All right. There's hidden costs that especially apply to anybody who's doing anything to do with construction. And I mean anything, not painting, okay, but construction of any kind. If you're going to open a wall here in the US, if you're going to open the wall, you are doing technically construction, okay? So hidden little costs that you're going to need to include is there's costs for demolition.
So Lisa, can I stop you for a minute? Would you like me to go and put up the luxury living room refresh project on the screen?
Oh yes, I forgot we had that. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. So
yes. Okay. No, that's great. That's great. Okay. So, yes, and we have a couple of rough ballparks on individual costs in US dollars, and that's, as of, I guess, last year when we put this together, right? But let me talk a little bit more about hidden costs that you might need to include. Demolition, okay?
Well, this is obviously an expensive project. Am I right? That's the caveat here.
Oh, I'm sorry. The luxury. Yes. See, it says luxury living room refresh project.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's a luxury. And if you flip to the next page, Dina, I believe there's one that's for a standard living room project. See, so the price of the sofa has dropped in half, the coffee table has dropped down, so, and again, these are US dollar ballparks. And again, they don't reflect your style, or, maybe you've got stuff already and you don't even need to include them, or you've found a fabulous deal at a thrift store or something, or a consignment store. So, these are just ballpark, rounded number ballparks. But demolition, hauling away of garbage, you need to include a cost for that, because here in the US, people charge to take large garbage away to places where they can either recycle it or dump it, okay? If you're doing anything where you're moving electrical, you're installing new plumbing, anything like that, again, here in the US, there's going to require from your local municipality, there's going to require a permit. Okay, they're not very expensive, but you need to know what that is. All right, so you need to kind of find out where you live. Do you live in a city? If you live in the city, it's easy. If you live kind of in a country or a suburban area, you may need to call the county or the region if you're in the UK, and find out kind of who's the governing body for your area and speak to their development department about what their permits will cost. Shipping. Oh, you buying a sofa? It's going to cost to get it there to you. So you want to include the shipping, taxes, if you're including VAT or, sales tax on things. Oftentimes, if you're doing any kind of construction, you're going to not be able to have places to store things. And it may arrive, God knows it doesn't recently, but it may arrive in a place and you're not done yet to receive it. So you may need to actually have storage costs included. And then, of course, unless you're planning on installing all of it yourself, you're going to need to pay somebody to put in your appliances or your lighting fixtures, or maybe even your large sectional, which, I don't want to be hauling that thing. I'm done with those days. So anyway, so those are all hidden costs that you want to make sure that you include in your budget. The second thing that, or the third thing, excuse me, that you want to make sure that you include is any consultants you may use. Now, Pat, I know you're on this string, or I hope you're still on this string. I was looking at your project the other day and I was thinking to myself, with ceilings as high as you're talking about, you may actually want to engage a lighting designer to be included. So that's a consultant. I know you're an architect, so you're covering your documents that as well. But oftentimes, if you want to open a wall, for instance, guys, between your kitchen and your dining room, for instance, I know a lot of older houses here in the US have that partition that people want to get rid of. If you've got 2 stories, you are going to need a structural engineer. Now, they're not super expensive, but you need to build in that couple of dollars. I did a renovation, I don't know, a couple of years ago now. And I think that the structural engineer to remove a 10-foot area of wall was like a $2,000 cost. So you build that into your budget. You've got to make sure you include that. So consultants, and then here's the big bugaboo that people don't really understand, which is maybe they begin to understand now, but with COVID. But here's the truth of it is construction and projects always have what we call overages or PARs. And the truth of it is, it can range, depending upon the level of project that you're doing, anywhere from 10% to 50%. Okay. And this is really, that can be kind of a scary number. And I have hit that on a project before and really had to kind of take a step back and reassess what we were going to do next after that. And that's just the way it goes. And I'll tell you where that really gets squirrely. If you're building a new house, no problems. Everything's raw and new and kind of laid out in front of you. If you guys are renovating a house, and that is probably 85% of everybody that's part of the club, if you're renovating, take a stiff drink and get ready, because the minute you open up that wall, God knows what you can find. Okay. And the reality of it is, there's all kinds of stuff that got done before you showed up on the scene with that home that may or may not be to code. And the minute you open up that wall, you have to bring it to code. In fact, in the US, if we do something as simple as change out our toilets, we have to bring the toilet to code, which is a good thing. It means that we have to bring them all down to low water flush and things, which is all good, but you're going to be required to do that. So you have to think about it in terms of your overage is going to be higher than that 10% if you are renovating. I would estimate 15 to maybe even 20. That would be kind of give you a safe number on things. Now, let's define that for a second, because it's not necessarily overages on the cost of your furniture. Your furniture isn't going to cost more just because you're renovating, but anything that you're doing construction-wise will cost more than your initial budget allows for, because it's Murphy's Law. It's a universal axiom that nothing doesn't cost more. Nothing doesn't cost less. It always costs more. So just build that into your budget. And then that way there's no ugly surprises, or you don't start gulping 2/3 of the way through the project and go, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to finish this. And I have seen that. In fact, in my neighborhood, I have, I don't know, 2 or 3 houses that I walk by almost every day that obviously ran out of money. So budgets are an extremely, extremely important tool in your planning arsenal to get right. Okay. Now, the fourth element that is kind of super important that you understand that we discuss in the book is the timeline. And there's more information in the book, guys, isn't there, Megan?
Yes, there is, definitely. Yeah.
Is it? Let's see. Oh, well, let's see. Where are we on timelines? Okay. Oh, Megan, I forgot to go over the splurge and save factors.
Oh, right. Yeah. So
can you tell them about that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So guys, when it comes to budgeting for any space, you definitely want to spend a bigger portion of your budget on the wow items or the things that you'll first notice in any space. You'll also want to consider larger splurges for things that you would use daily or things that will increase the value of your home ultimately. And just to like clarify, know that like splurging doesn't mean overspending. It just simply means prioritizing where you're putting your funds. So like in the example of like a kitchen remodel, you definitely would want to invest in your kitchen cabinets. They get used daily. They take up a lot of space, so a lot of visual space. Another one would be your countertops for the same reason. They get daily use again. And so it's just it's a smart investment to spend a bit more on countertops and cabinets. Also faucets. Please guys, don't cheap out on your fixtures or especially your faucet. This is another item that will get used daily. And honestly, like the higher end ones, the like top quality ones look so much better. So it's definitely worth that investment. Lighting too is another one. That's usually, lighting, as we know, can make or break a room. And it's often the first thing that people will notice in your space. A couple of areas that you can save with your budget, I would say, like your sink. You can get just like a basic affordable option there, as well as your cabinetry hardware. There's no need to like go for the pricier option there, especially when there's so many like affordable options that look really good and will elevate the look of your cabinetry. And also your decor and accessories. There's no reason to blow your budget on like decorative accents, like vases or bowls or trays. You want to just like simply invest in a few like unique pieces that you love there. And it really is about the final overall look. And no one's really going to be able to tell the difference between high and low end when it comes to accessories. So,
you know what? You're absolutely right, Megan. Thank you for that. And I want to pop in and mention that there's some really great comments, yes, in the chat that we kind of touch on in the book, and I haven't really gone over it here, but AC says, be sure and hire a licensed contractor instead of a handyman. Oh my God. Yes, absolutely hire a licensed contractor. They're more expensive for a really good reason. It's worth it, believe me. And then Heidi mentions, which I didn't even talk about, there's an expense of needing an alternate living facility. Guys, if you're doing anything construction-wise, like tearing up your kitchen, you need to go somewhere. You do not want to be trying to live in a space that's under construction. That is madness on a level you do not need to subject yourself to. Asbestos, yes, somebody obviously ran into asbestos. I don't know if we find that so much in Europe, but boy, the minute it happens here in the US, everything shuts down. So really good points, guys, in the chat that I'm not even mentioning.
You know that also when it came to space planning, Jonathan made a really cute comment that we use all the time, which is he was talking about blue tape on the floor. Can you expand on that?
Oh, yeah, Jonathan, good point. Thank you very much. Yes, in fact, I think we cover it in one of our documents, but here's the deal is that if you guys are in a space and you're planning on redoing it and fluffing it, you have the ability, and you don't really want to kind of go to the computer and do your planning on computer, then really grab yourself a roll of blue tape and get the dimensions of either the new sofa or the sofa that you're going to be using and lay it out on the floor in blue tape and then walk through the space. Does that feel right to you? Is it the right distance from the television if it's going to be in by a television, a media or entertainment area? What does it feel like for you? And if you don't like it, rip that blue tape up. It doesn't matter. Move it over 5 inches. And that'll
Or what
really
you can
help save your back, right?
And for smaller tables, you can actually cut it out on cardboard.
Oh,
and then
yes.
you can just move the cardboard around the floor.
There's some very low-tech ways that you can get to some good planning solutions without having to kind of do it on computer. So don't worry, blue tape, cardboard, we've got you covered on all of those things. So I know, guys, that we want to try and get to some of the Q&A. So I'm just going to hit this one last point that's super important in the book. That is the kind of the fourth element in planning for the project, which is the timeline or the schedule, or we use in the business, we use critical path. And that is, Dina, that starts, I think, on page 38. Yes. Okay. So here's the reality of how all of these things link together. You have now created your inspiration. You have now defined exactly what you want to do with your scope of work. You have now created a ballpark budget. Okay, now what you need to decide is when and how long do I want to take to do this project? And that's a super LinkedIn element, because let's be honest, you could build a house in a week if you want to, but it's going to cost a heck of a lot more money than you have budgeted. Okay, but maybe you have the ability to space your project out over a period of several months. I never work on a project, it seems, that is shorter than 6 months. Sometimes they've gone as long as 4 years. So it really just kind of depends upon the scale of the project, budgeting, the scope of work, and what needs to get done. So these 4 pillars are what holds up your planning for your project. So what do you need to include when you are thinking about your timeline is, again, I go back to construction. If you're going to do anything construction, and it could be something as simple as maybe you have a 2-story house and you want to repaint it, okay? You may want to get a professional painter in to get to those ceilings that are 24 feet up. All right. That's not an easy project to do on your own. So you want to assemble a team, and your team is completely reliant upon your scope of work. All right. And as somebody mentioned, you definitely want to make sure that you're hiring licensed people. And I will say that I will drop dead saying you always have to have a licensed contractor, and you always have to have a licensed electrician and plumber. Never let your nephew, who's learning about electricity, do work on your house. A, it's against code, all right, here in the US anyway. And B, it's extremely dangerous, because the minute the electrical is done and it's not correct, you lock that stuff away behind the walls. You're not thinking about it. You could end up with a fire behind your walls. It's a nightmare. I've seen it. I've had it happen on projects. So you'd always want to make sure that you are always using people who are liable legally for the work that they perform in your home. Okay, because you do not want to have a problem on your situation. So number 1, assemble a professional team that you need. Again, could be as simple as a painter. Number 2, you want to, or it could be much more complex, tile guy, consultant, general contractor, all those things, roofer, all those things. Okay. Phase 2 is you want to hit your schematic design time frame. Okay. Oh, excuse me. You may take the timeline for hiring your team. It really depends upon your scope of work. That's why these things are so important together. But it could take as easy as like maybe a week to find a simple painter, or it could take a couple months if you're hiring a lighting consultant, or if you're hiring a structural engineer. You have to get into their queue so that you get your project onto their boards. So sometimes it can take like a couple of months. It depends. So knowing your scope of work and knowing how many team members you're going to need to assemble and knowing their timelines makes you or helps you build in this timeline. All right.
So Lisa, I also wanted to say to everybody, a really good way to do this is you can also drive around neighborhoods with homes that are in your kind of economic level, and you can find homes that are under construction. You can walk through a lot of times those homes while they're under construction. You can meet painters and you can meet people, and they'll give you their cards, and that way you can assemble people from other projects. We've done that a lot on projects that we've done together, and it works great.
Yes, that's a very good tip. Yeah, if you're still going, I don't have a clue on how to do the contractors, that's another tip, which is look for people around you, get consultants. We kind of outline the details in the book a little bit more as well, but that's a very important point.
And we actually also have, because it is so important, we have created a resource that's called How to Hire a General Contractor. And that covers everything you need to know, from red flags to green flags, I suppose. But Lisa really, really details that quite a bit. And so I will link that in chat for you guys. Please
do. And you know what? I almost want to do a masterclass on that, because there's a number of steps that, especially if you're hiring, I'm going to say this, there's a number of steps that you want to go through if you're hiring a general contractor, someone who's going to manage the overall construction level for your project. Especially, let's go back to kitchens again. Kitchens are the most complex space to develop in any house. And so because you have a whole number of trades, you have plumbers, you have electricians, you have cabinet makers, you have flooring installers, you have painters, you might have windows and door guys, you have appliance installers. There's all kinds of parties in the mix on that one. And what you want to do is you may want to have somebody who's kind of the boss of bosses, and that's your general contractor on something that complex. Anyway, all right. So phase two, which is phase two of your timeline, needs to be built. Phase two that needs to be built into your timeline is what we call in the business schematic design. Let me define what schematic looks like. Schematic is your ballparks. And so by the time you're getting to your schematic design, you probably have a better understanding of what exactly your floor plan looks like, what exactly your products and materials might be. Like maybe you've decided, we're beating that kitchen example, maybe you've decided you're going to go with porcelain tile because the original stone tile is looking really expensive right now. So you're going to switch that out to a porcelain tile. So you kind of knowing those details because you've begun to define this, you've begun to work on the budget a little bit. And so these porcelain tiles come from Italy. And so they're a 6-week lead time. So you need to be able to build in that 6-week lead time into kind of, your understanding of your schematics or your understanding of your timeline. And that's what happens when you're in schematics. You look at cost estimates from things, and you're beginning to put together your final, in your Pinterest program, your final kind of concept boards. Yes, I'm doing farmhouse. Yes, I'm going to do a new kitchen. And so I want this kind of cabinet. I do want hardware. I want X, Y, and Z. Those are kind of finally coming together in what I call that first pass or schematic. Now, that can take, again, depending upon the type of your project, we call it out in the book as a single space can take as quick as 2 to 3 weeks. A whole house can take 4 to 6 weeks, depending upon how fast you're moving on it and how fast you can get all of the information put together and assemble and go, oh my gosh, I really love this cordon bleu range that I really want to put in there because I've decided that I love cooking. And the cordon bleu is a 12-week lead time. So, you got to build that in, but you want it and you're going to put it in there. So you have to build that in the timeline that you're going to put in. Okay.
Lisa, can I say one more thing that I want you to make sure that you cover is so few people have a way they have no place to stage a project, like empty space to receive ranges and sofas and everything. They have no place, and you need a place. You need to go to like a storage place and get like a 10 by 10 or a 10 by 20 even, and one that actually will receive for you, so that when things come in, you can have it go there, and then you take it from there when you can afford to do, and when you have time to do it, and then move that into the house.
Yes, absolutely. That's absolutely true. So that gets included both in the budget and in the timeline. Now, phase 3 of creating your timeline or your critical path is what we call design development in the business, which is that you've now got kind of, I'm kind of thinking porcelain tile, blah, blah, blah. And this is where you literally nail things down. You literally go, that's the tile I want. That's the kitchen countertop that I want. That's the light fixture that I want. And you start both plugging that into your budget, okay? But your budget's already informed by a ballpark around this one. And you nail everything down so that it's labeled as final selection or final decision. And we kind of talk a little bit about this on pages 40 and 41 of the book. And again, this goes back to, maybe you haven't decided on a sofa, but you need a sectional. So you've ballparked a sectional price in there, but you really need to find it by the time you're in design development, because that particular sectional may be coming from, I don't know, India or something. I have no idea. And so that may need to take time. And so you need to know those things to build it into your timeline. So nailing down those final selections on timelines can take anywhere. Again, single space would be 2 to 3 weeks for those final selections, plus another 2 weeks for maybe revisions. Oh, maybe you're in love with that porcelanosa tile, but they just told you that it's discontinued, or it's a COVID issue and they can't make it. I've got a project right now where a client, we were originally told a 8-week time frame, which seemed reasonable. Well, I just got a call on it. We're now 6 weeks into the 8-week timeline. I just got a call saying that the fabric is no longer able to be manufactured because there's not enough workers in the factory to make the fabric. So we're now talking about a 12-week lead time. So my client is not happy with that information, but those kinds of things happen. So you have to build in, a little bit of that time frame. So single space, 2 to 4 weeks, and a whole house, 4 to 6 or 8 weeks, depending upon your final design development, because at this point you are locking things down and you are, knowing exactly what's going into where. So that's what happens with design development. So that's that timeline for that. Then the next part of your timeline that you need to include is what we call procurement and or construction, and they are tied together. So if you're doing construction, for instance, and the contractor or yourself may be ordering, I'm going to use flooring again. For an example, maybe you're putting wood flooring into your kitchen. Well, the reality of it is wood flooring has a lead time. All materials have lead times. Everything that needs to be manufactured that goes into a home has a lead time. So you have to understand what those lead times are and back out. So if your contractor says to you, he's going to be done with rough construction by X date, you're going to need to have that flooring ready to go there. So you need to work back from that date and make sure that you have purchased the materials by that time. All right. So if you're not doing construction, your timeline looks a little bit different, which is it's just procurement. So you're going to need to just say, okay, I'm just going to buy this sofa and that dining table, and those take 8 weeks to get in or whatever. So I need to be able to make sure that I've got everything done and ready to receive those items in 8 weeks. So you need to work back from that date that you want to be finished and place the orders for the materials at that time. So it's a simple thing to do, but it doesn't sound simple when I think about it, but it's a simple thing to do when you understand that you're always doing what you call working backwards on the timeline. Meaning if your deadline is maybe you're going to renovate something for a big holiday party or a birthday party or something. And so that's that date in the
I think that working back from the timeline says it perfectly.
Oh, okay.
I mean, we don't, because what I want to do is I see all these questions coming in on chat.
Oh, okay.
And I know we have a bunch of questions to get to. So I want to make sure that we get to everybody today.
Okay.
So,
all right, great. So the last thing that you want to do is you want to include installation time. All right. So you've lived through all of this, right, in your mind already. And so you're going to have to get it installed. And what that means is, now, I don't mean this if you're just doing a small room renovation or something like that. You can literally install it maybe in a day or two. But here's things that I like to build in for any kind of installation whatsoever. You want 1 day to clean before anything arrives. Excuse me. Then you want to give yourself anywhere between 1 day. I've taken as many as 5 days to install projects. It just depends upon the scale of the project. And then you want to have 1 day afterwards to clean afterwards, because the guys that move things in are not really paying attention. They may have nicked a wall. You need to touch it up, those kinds of things. Maybe you want to hang a couple of pieces of artwork. So it's a minimum of 3 days for installation, regardless of your scale of project. So think about those in those terms. And then you get to move out of that hotel that you're in or your sister's basement or wherever you're staying and move into your new house. So that's the beauty of having that timeline. So you know exactly what date you're going to be finished and how you work through the processes to get to that date and love what you've done. Yay to all of you guys. I gotta say, I'm so impressed with everyone that's a member of the club, because I know that you are taking on this project that you may know a little bit about, or you may know nothing about. And you're kind of going, you know what, I'm gonna learn this, and I've got someplace to go to get some questions answered. So
Lisa,
with that,
Lisa,
yes.
So we have a question from Yannick in the questions, and I think he'd love, or I don't know. I think they'd love. I don't know who it is. If it's a guy, is Yannick?
Yannick is a gentleman. Yes.
Oh, yes. Okay.
I'm sorry. What's the question? I don't see it
in the Q&A.
Oh,
I don't have any questions.
Oh, it says when it comes, it's actually a really good question. I'd like to know. When it comes to renovating a room in general, which one of these two things are you doing first? Painting the walls or implementing a new hardwood flooring? He's read both. But when you paint your walls first, the dust of the flooring process is going to stay on your wall. But when you do the flooring and the trim first, there won't be that clean line between the painted wall and the flooring in the end. So paint flooring.
Yes. So here's the deal. Floors go down first, and I'll tell you why. So it's actually a two-part answer, which is you're going to want, so if your walls are drywall or plaster, okay, and you're going to paint, you need to seal them or finish them, or we call it here in the States, priming. So the primer coat goes on whenever that guy gets there. Okay, it doesn't matter if the flooring's there or not. But the primer stays, then install the floors, okay? Then part of the painting prep becomes covering all those floors so that they are not marred when they're new. Then they do the paint job, and then you install the trim. Now, if it's a good painter, he's painting that trim at the shop, okay, because he can get a better line and he can do it all at once and in the same time frame as he's painting the walls, okay? So trim, then the walls, and make sure the floor is covered and protected. And that can either be the responsibility of the general contractor, that can be the responsibility of the flooring installer, or that can be typically not, but often, or sometimes it can be, but often, most often, it's the painter. And guys, if you know anything about painting, the reality of it is 90% of a good paint job is all the prep. The color going on is the last 10%, and that's the glamorous part. Heck, I could do a painted wall. I do not want to do the prep. Trust me, because they've got to seal all of those little spaces between the trim and the floor, because the floor isn't straight and the wall isn't straight. So there's all that prep work that has to happen. So really good question, Yannick. What else do we have?
I have Megan.
Actually, we have another, flooring related question. Angela asks, well, she says, I am debating on the flooring for my kitchen. What I have in the rest of the house is oak, and of course it's aged over the years. If they install hardwood, it won't be the same color. So what are her options? She's thinking maybe ceramic tiles that look alike. And she mentions it's a wet area and small.
Oh, got it. Oh, there it is. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So yes, so if they install hardwood, it will not be, that's correct. That's absolutely right. I would actually opt to a second material, because if you have true hardwood, not engineered wood, you have the ability to refinish that over the years, which is the difference. It's why hardwood costs more than engineered wood. They both perform interestingly, relatively well. But so I would choose a tile, or I would choose a material that, okay. And so if it is something that is an open space and ties in with, say it's in a great room situation, it's a wet area and small. Okay, if it's a wet area and small and you have doors that can close on that, you could do a tile that is an alternate chromatic story than the floor is, okay?
Angela mentions it's a galley kitchen.
It's a galley kitchen, and so it's open on one side to the wood floors. Mm-hmm. So you're going to want to choose a tile that is a chromatically visually similar in color to the floors. Now, it can be a little bit different because it's a different material in that it can have different patterning and things. Like you might want to have a ceramic style that looks like a little bit of a, terracotta stone or something like that. You might want to do something along those lines, but you don't want to pick something that you've got these gold in the oak floors. You do not want to pick white or black or something really crazy, because if you can see it from the rest of the house, it's going to act like this big line that breaks the space up visually. And why build that in for yourself and make the space feel even smaller? That's my philosophy on it. So yeah, I would definitely change materials.
Great, Lisa, can you see Kelly B's question? She put that in quite a while ago.
Oh gosh, okay, Kelly. All right. How do you start looking for different suppliers for tiles, windows, and centers? Oh, the options are so vast. Yes. Okay, that's a really good question. All right. So here in the US, we have vendors that are multi-product vendors. And they are, so it also depends on your budget too, because there's everything from a luxury tile showroom that a designer might use for something that, brings in imported stuff. Or there's the Home Depot. So there's that whole range in between, right? But what we have kind of in the middle here in the US, and I'm not sure about kind of what it's like in Europe, it might be more specialized, is we have these vendors that have, like, they specialize in flooring materials. And so they'll have wood, and they'll carry carpet, and they'll carry tile materials for flooring. So you want to look for somebody. I can tell you that a nationwide brand that I have used throughout the US is a company called ProSource. And they're all independently owned, but most of them are pretty good. And they have a really nice selection of a broad range of, wall to wall. You guys know my story about how to get a big rug using wall to wall. ProSource will have that. They'll have wood flooring. They'll have hardwood flooring. They'll have all different kinds of tiles for backsplash, tiles for flooring, that kind of thing. So you want to kind of look for a vendor that looks reputable, okay, has multiple lines if they have them. Now, again, in Europe, there may be like this really great specialty tile vendor. And if you have that kind of thing, take a look there first, right? So take a look at that. But what you want to do is you want to see volume. You want to make sure that these guys are going to be there if you have a problem with an installed floor in a year. Okay. So you want to, when you're looking at products, you want to look for what is the individual manufacturer guarantee in terms of lifetime performance. And in some stuff, it's really not that good, but in some stuff, it's great. It's like 20, 25 years. So you want to make sure that that vendor is going to be there in a year. That would be how I would kind of weigh my choices about how many there are out there. And you can look at references online before you kind of go in and start looking at options. So
Okay,
great
so-
question, Kelly.
Yeah, we have Barbara Jackson.
Barbara, are you seeing lead times getting better or worse overall? Ugh, worse right now, guys. I'm sorry to say. I mean, when this whole thing started at the beginning, I thought, oh my God, I've never seen anything like this in my entire career. Well, I've never seen anything like this in my entire career. I just keep saying that. So I don't know, like I gave you the example of the furniture with the fabric that all of a sudden nobody's at the factory anymore to make the fabric. And that stuff is happening. So we all have to kind of take a deep breath and be a little empathetic for these vendors because they're not trying to not deliver. Trust me, they only get paid when they deliver. Okay. So they're trying to get stuff done, but it's just taking longer. So we all have to breathe in and breathe out on that one. But yeah, I think it'll be this way for a little bit longer. I don't know, maybe through the rest of 22.
So
but
Lisa,
maybe we'll see it pick up by the end of 22.
Yes, Lisa, can we do this? Can we go through, we got Molly, Angela. Angela's been over here quite a bit. Michelle has a quick question. Can we laser through these questions so that we can get to the email?
Oh, yes,
questions
because
that
we have the whole
want to do?
Q&As. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
All right.
so-
Molly, what about order of painting and flooring if it is carpet that is being installed? You definitely want to paint after you've installed your carpeting because carpet is really rough on walls and will scuff the hell out of them. So you want to install your carpet first, cover it. Super large tiles.
That's a follow-up
Plain,
question from
super
Angela.
large. Plain, super large if you're contemporary. If you're not contemporary, think about a standard size. Okay. Let's see. Lindy, what do you think about Nucor waterproof water flooring that looks like wood from Floor & Decor? You know, I don't know the brand in particular. Take a look at their guarantees. That's how you define whether or not a floor is willing to put itself on the line as being waterproof. Okay. Angela says, we have homework to do after the class. Yes, it's true. Now, okay, guys, should we hit the Q&As? Because I know there's some burning answers in my Ask Lisa inbox that, I have a question for you guys. Did you guys like the masterclass? Did you find it helpful? And if you did, what do they do, guys? Do they say yes, or what do they tell it to? I don't know. How can they give us feedback on how this worked?
Well, you can ask them right now. Just ask these guys if they're enjoying themselves. I mean, guys.
We're getting
just let
yeses.
us know.
Love. Yes.
Great. Okay, great.
I mean,
Good.
this is serious deep dive stuff. I mean, this isn't lightweight. We're just going over. We're literally teaching. Lisa, you're teaching like you're teaching design students in a design school.
All right, well, good. So if it's helpful to everybody, I'm so excited. I am so excited because I am filled with this stuff, and all you have to do is ask me
It
what you
just
want
has
to
to
know.
come out at some point.
Okay,
Yep.
so Dana, I'm gonna make it a little bit confusing for you, but there was a question that came up during last week's Q&A in the Ask Lisa that we're gonna start with, and then we're gonna bump down to the bottom. All right. So if you look on the string, the email says Roxanne and Lisa.
Can you give me a date first?
It on mine it shows 7:08 a.m. and it's because I
see it.
responded. Yes. Okay. You
I
see it? Okay, great. All right. Now it's a string. There's a string of text. But
Yeah.
Roxanne, I hope you're still on the call because I took a
Well,
look
let's
at
ask,
your...
is Roxanne on the call?
Yeah, she's here.
Yay! All right, great. Because I read her thing afterwards and she had assembled her whole family and we did not have time to get to her dilemma. So I want to talk about that today. And it's really a great couple of questions. Everybody can learn from this. I believe she's in the Netherlands. How wonderful. All right. So
Okay.
Roxanne, if you can, Dana, if you can pull up the first picture, which is actually a picture looking down on a fairly narrow, but a really beautiful wood floored living room that has a table at the end of the stairs. So guys, her questions had to do with, she is having a terrible dilemma. Dee, have you got those up?
I'm give me a minute.
Oh, I'm sorry. She's having a big dilemma because she doesn't know how to lay out the space. And after watching a couple of the painting, yes, perfect. Thank you. After watching a couple of the painting videos and reading through the documents that we put together, she's feeling now like she might need to change her color scheme a little bit. And I agree with her. That's fine. That's really good. So what I'm going to say is to kind of streamline it is, Roxanne, I know you tried 1,000 different layouts. Let's just scroll down to picture number 5. Dana, that shows the sofa, the kitty that looks just like Spanky, my boss, and the small area rug and the chair. So if you'll scroll through to picture number 5, in her link. Yes, thank you. Oh, so good. Okay, so that's the layout I like, Roxanne. Just no more brain damage. That's a good one. What you need to do to make this layout work is you need a larger carpet, and it's probably going to need to be a different color because we're going to talk about colors next, and that rug may not work quite as well in that room. So you may want to repurpose that room to kind of like another room or something like that. So you asked about molding. Oh, baby, you have incredibly blank walls and insanely gorgeously high ceilings. Put molding up. Put it up before you paint because it's going to be a beautiful, beautiful look together. So that would be amazing. Your wood floors are fabulous. I would absolutely not spend money to change those. I think they're lovely. They've been put on in a diagonal. I think it's a very interesting look with that. Then if you scroll, Dana, to the very next picture down, you can see, guys, that she's done a series of color tests like the rule of 3, but she's a little all over the map and she's trying to figure out what's going on. And here's her situation. She has a narrow, high living space. In fact, it's quite narrow. And it's high, and she's living in a historical building. So things like that fireplace can't change out, those windows, which are gorgeous and have stained glass in the top, those aren't changing. So all of those things have to be factored in when you're making a color decision. But most importantly, and this is things that you guys need to hear, especially that are living in Europe, that have this condition in particular, narrow spaces, but tall, beautiful ceilings. The danger of doing something dark in a space like that is that it ends up feeling like an elevator shaft. Believe me, I have done it. I have seen that mistake made, and it is not a good one. You don't want to do that. So what you want to do is you want to look for paint colors. You're leaning towards that October mist, and that's lovely, or the other green, which is nice. But I'm going to caution you on that because your light reflectance value, or LRV, is kind of in the middle there. So you were right. Your gut instinct that the greens that you were looking at might be a little too dark for your space. Absolutely. When you're in a space like this, you need light to bounce off the walls, not be absorbed by it, so you don't end up in the elevator shaft. Okay. So the way the LRV scale works, guys, is the higher the number, the more light the item reflects. The lower the number, like one of my favorite colors, in the black region is Benjamin Moore's Black Beauty. It's got an LRV of 4. Okay, so that absorbs all that light. That's just going to be a big suck for light. That's not going to work in this situation. What you want is something higher. October Mist, I looked it up, is 46. You want to go higher than that. So I would consider, there's another beautiful color by Benjamin Moore, or you could look for the Farrow and Ball equivalent, because I know you're in the Netherlands, of something called natural linen, which I think would be beautiful with those floors. And its LRV is 60. So you're going to get a lot more light bounce and a softer sort of overall feel to the space. And it'll feel more generous and it'll look fabulous with the molding underneath it. So think about something along those lines. It's a little bit more of a neutral than those greens. Now, you could consider a green that's lighter if you really want to stick into the green region, but just look for 60 and higher, kind of in that range, and that will feel a little bit more generous. So, all right, Roxanne, here's your job. We want to see the after pictures.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm so excited, right, Megan?
Please,
isn't it great?
Oh, I agree. Please do the molding. Please do the molding. And I agree with the natural. The natural linen is a legit pink color. I really like that one.
It's a legit color.
Yeah.
And it's one of the 2022 Benjamin Moore colors. And I'm sure Farrow and Ball has an equivalent. They're so good. Okay, Dana, now I'm going to throw your brain all around and have you go back to Sherry, who the date is 1:30, 1:30, and it came in at 12:55. All right. And it's a single picture of a living room and dining room. Yes. And she's in a situation where so many of you guys are, and she got started on the room and she just never finished it. Now she says her hubby hates the wall color, which is a little bit,
Lisa,
sometimes people
Lisa, I'm sorry. You have to give me her last name.
Oh, Kiba, K-E-B. K.
Well, I have like 5 or 6 photographs from her.
Okay, so the
I have
first
a
email
lot of
says
photographs from her.
yes. Okay, so go to the email that came in on 1:30 at 12:55, and her name is
I don't
spelled
have
S-H-A-R.
times.
I'm sorry,
I have her latest email that has
I don't
about
want her
10 photos.
latest.
Okay.
Do you have the one from 1:30? Because that has all the pictures we need. Sorry, guys, technical difficulties.
No, I don't. I have the living room needs help.
That's it. Living room needs help.
Well, I have about 8 pictures.
Yes, that's correct. That's correct. So the picture I want you to pull up, I'm sorry. The picture that I want you to pull up is picture number 2
Okay.
in the scroll. And what that is, guys, is okay, that's perfect. Thank you. Thank you. So her husband isn't in love with the wall colors. So what she's trying to do is trying to kind of bring a little bit more color in. She thinks that he'll feel a little bit more comfortable with that. And she's seen our videos on kind of painting the wall behind televisions when they're that big in a room like that. Maybe a little bit darker in the, in the chromatic story. And that will definitely kind of like help that television sort of look less sort of obvious with things. So I'm going to vote for that. So if you scroll now down to page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, she has some blue paints that she's considering off of the Benjamin Moore color preview. So my vote on that, Sherry, is for going for river blue, which is the bottom of that color. Okay. I think that's got enough depth and richness. So that'll really make that wall feel rich and elegant and also help hide the TV at the same time, which I agree completely. So I would definitely not go with the browns that you showed me. I love that river blue, but what's the caveat here? You definitely need to do the rule of three test big time in that room, because you've got that room half done. So you want to make sure that whatever color you pick for that, I kind of like that range on the river blue, works in that room. All right.
So Lisa, I think everybody agrees with you. Jill and Jonathan and the
yay! All right.
I all like that color. So
all right, good. So if you'll show them the next picture up, which is actually a picture of the rug and the coffee table. So she said, these are, oh no, not, yeah, no, this is a good picture. Yes. Okay. So she also wants help, guys, like I know many of you do, helping her finish that room. Okay. So she's not in love with that coffee table. I'm not either. I would pull that puppy out and I would give yourself a round coffee table. Now you could consider a round upholstered top ottoman. That could be kind of fun and sort of sexy. And maybe it's in a nice kind of a leather color that's not necessarily replicated there. But maybe like it's a taupe or something like that, that kind of feels a little bit more interesting. She is worried about her artwork feeling too small above her sofa. Yes, it is too small. You need at least a triptych underneath something like that, or you need a definitely larger piece. So that's good. Then if you go to table or to picture number 2, Dana, you can see that she also needs to replace her lamps. She doesn't like those. Those lamps are problematic because they blend in with the beige wall because they're clear glass or the cut glass. And so what you want is you want something that's got a mass statement to it. So you could make see the 2 lamps just to the right of the picture there, bottom right corner. Those lamps should be soft, rounded, maybe, and maybe even have a color that you can pull out of the rug, something along those lines. Or maybe you give them both color on the base and color on the shade. That could happen. That wouldn't be too bad. And then the other thing too is that she's got a desk, and you can barely see it behind what looks like the recliner in the right. And she doesn't really like the desk there, but she wants to do something by the window that gives her the opportunity to do puzzles. I love puzzles too. In fact, I love them so much. I put one in the store that is crazy making. I can't get it done. So what I'm going to suggest for you there is think about putting in a game table. That's a perfect area for a little small 4-top game table. That would be a good solution, and it won't make the desk look quite so out of place. All right. So again, Sherry, your next job is to send us the after pictures. All right. So let's see. Dina, the next, let me see this one. The next after Sherry in line on 130 again is, it says Lisa Holt Q&A on it. And it says forward bath vanity. So if you can do that, and we're going to need to expand that PDF that she sent us. Guys, when you send me in these PDFs, they are super helpful because I can visualize what you're trying to tell me and understand exactly what's going on. She's got a very complex little situation here in her bathroom that she's redoing. She's already bought fixtures and they don't fit. That happens so often. So, but it won't quite so much anymore now that you guys know how to start a project. Okay, so here's your solution. If you guys look at this PDF that she's got a picture down in the right-hand corner, which is the destination goal for her bathroom. And this is the elevation that's showing the vanity wall. Now she has this funky window to the left and it's high. And what the heck do you do with all that kind of thing? What you do with that is you mirror that entire wall all the way up around the side of the window, all the way down below, and all the way up the right side. You just mirror that wall, make that mess go away, because you can't make it even, can't make it balanced, okay? So you're going to mirror that wall. You are going to ditch the idea of the cabinet that does not work, because here's what's happened, guys, is she's bought this fabulous mirrored cabinet. It might be even electric mirror. But the problem is, because of her faucet size, she actually can't open that mirrored cabinet. So you're going to relocate that cabinet to another bathroom, because you mentioned to me that you have other bathrooms. So you're going to want to do that. Okay. And then, what you want to do to get light on your face when you have an asymmetrical vanity back wall like this is you're going to find, and Megan, if you want to pull up one, I think we have, don't we have some tiny mini pendants in the lighting? Have we put those into the store yet? What you want to do,
we have a few, but more is coming for sure.
But more is coming. Okay. So what you want to look for, think about 3 mini pendants that can hang, one close to the right-hand side of the wall, one on the close to the left-hand side of the wall, and one right down the center. And you want them tiny. I mean, you want them maybe 3 inches around, or maybe they're a shaft of clear light that gives you the ability to get light on your face. And you'll do 3 of them because you need to have bounce from both sides. Okay. So while you're still open in construction, talk to your electrician, put some power up there. You'll want overheads, of course, in the rest of the bathroom, but for your face, you're going to want a clear, regular, like a 3000 bulb in 3000 LED bulb in that light fixture. And they can be super tiny. They can be 1.5 inches around. I've done them super small. They look like little hanging jewelry pieces, and they're gorgeous, but they pop out a bunch of light, and that way you'll get light on your face and have a vanity that works. Yay! And you're just gonna have to store all the stuff that was going in that cabinet in that beautiful floating cabinet. Okay. That's your assignment now, is Deborah, is give us some before and afters. Okay. All right. So the next one up, Dina, I'm going to try and like laser in a little bit on these guys, is the very next one, which is countertop. And this is no pictures, but I'm just going to give you the scoop. Jennifer has a situation where she has a master bath vanity existing that she's going to make a countertop change to. And the vanity is a soft, light, warm cream. And she doesn't know the name of the paint color. So here's what you do when you're in that situation, guys. You grab yourself one of those decks that we just saw that Sherry had, and you go in with your little handy dandy light pad, and you look until you find a chip that exactly matches that existing paint. And then you know the color that you have to reference, okay? Then she's asking, should the countertop try and match the cabinet? In my personal opinion, no. Usually you can't find a stone or a quartz that's a close enough match so that it looks uniform. So I would push against that. You better to have a nice contrast than to look like you tried to match it and missed. So I would go with white for your, I would go with a soft white, but a white for your countertops. And white and cream look fabulous together. You just have to repeat it again in the bathroom somewhere else. So then you'll be good to go. All right. So next one is literally the next one up. Dana does have pictures. It's Constance. And Constance is asking what color to paint her room. It's her kitchen eating area, excuse me, and she has wood floors and a large stone column, or a stone clad column that actually has her oven in it. So that's an interesting little detail. I haven't seen that before. And she's wanting to change the house to give her a little bit more light. The light has low light. And so she wants an off-white color. So here's where you go, Constance. You grab that color deck from whoever you're going to use, Farrow and Ball, Benjamin Moore, Sherwin-Williams, whatever you're using, and match your lightest white to that lightest stone in the column, because that column is clad in a stone that makes it a feature element, right? So you want your whites to tie in with that. So find it that way, use your pad, and then do the rule of 3. So that's a great question. All right. So the next one, oh gosh. Okay. So this was from Judith. And Judith's in a situation, there's no pictures on this one. Judith's in a situation where she's in a situation where she's got neighbors in a building, and she needs to soundproof her apartment, both the door and the common walls. Oh my God, we run into this all the time. It's crazy. So there's 2 techniques for soundproofing. There's a product. So you can do what's called the air lock on a soundproofing board, which basically means that the drywall in most houses, drywall is applied here in the US. Drywall is applied to wood studs, okay? And then the other wall is also drywall, and there's some insulation in there, but it doesn't do much, because the problem is the drywall is connected physically to the wood stud, okay? So to create an airlock, which will block the sound completely or almost completely, is you actually have to frame out another layer of drywall, and it can be thin. It does not have to be, your 1/2 inch, or excuse me, your 5/8. It can be 1/2 or 1/4 inch drywall. And you have to give yourself an air gap of about 3/4 to an inch. And so what happens is the sound waves move through the common wall, and then they hit that dead airspace. And if any of you guys have musicians or anybody in your family, you'll know nothing travels in dead air. So the minute it stops at the dead air, then you've got this additional layer of drywall, and the sound doesn't really go through. So that's one technique. So now you'll shave, 2.5, 2 3/4, maybe 3 inches off of that wall's space in your room, but it's so worth it if you're hearing noises. Now, how to soundproof your door? You want to add weather stripping around the door, all the way around, just like it's an exterior door. Just pretend it doesn't open onto a corridor, and weather strip the heck out of that. That is going to help it a lot. And make sure that you have what's called a brush or a seal on the bottom of the door. If usually front entry doors are sealed all the way down, but sometimes they're not. I've seen it. And if there's any kind of gap, you want to close that gap. So get some weather stripping on that one. Good question. And I know a lot of you guys deal with sound issues, so I really wanted to cover that one. So
you can also do double doors, like they do in hotels, where you have 2 doors and an airspace in between, because
it's the same air. It's creating the same air gap. It's a lot more construction involved, though. So I was kind of thinking maybe if she can do the wall and then the door, that might help. Anyway, all right. So let's pop over to Gladys Q&A. And Gladys has some pictures here. And we actually, anybody who saw the 23rd thing, we actually saw Gladys's Four Seasons room. And now she's gotten inspired and she's doing even more of the house, which is great. So she says she's decided to paint all of her walls in the home, and she wants to go with off-white colors. She's already ordered the paint samples. She's doing the rule of 3. And then she's sending us pictures of her home to have an idea of kind of what the kitchen looks like, and the living room, and the dining room. And she says one thing is she's pulling down the drapery and the valance in the dining room. I commend you on that one. Those are taking up a lot of light in there. So I would definitely pull those out. They're a strong statement, and I would consider taking those out and maybe having nothing, or, some lighter sheers or something that match the walls. That might be good. And let's see. And the question was, one of those colors will pair well with my kitchen cabinets, which is cherry pecan. So now if we slide down or slide up maybe to the picture just above that, Dana, We've got the cherry pecan kitchen. Okay, so here's the deal is you've got a lot of kind of yellow happening on the floor and on that backsplash. And cherry pecan, certainly in this picture, has a golden color to it. Because that's kind of the nature of that, both that wood and the stain that's been applied. So you're going to want to stay in the warm off-whites, not like I consider Benjamin Moore's Navajo white. I consider that a pale yellow. That is so deeply chromatically deep that it's too yellow for you. So I'm going to probably be willing to bet that soft chamois is also too blue for you because you're painting the other room Swiss coffee. So my thought is you might be able to continue Swiss coffee all the way through because the flooring is the same. So put Swiss coffee into your lineup of colors you're going to test. All right. And then we want to see the pictures afterwards. All right. Okay, so the next person, let's see, that we've got is Michelle, Dana, on 2-4. So Michelle does not have pictures here. So I'm just going to give you her question. Bless her heart, she's constructing a whole new house and she doesn't have an interior design out there. I don't know where out there is. So she's doing everything by herself. Michelle, if you're listening, I'd love to know where you're listening from. And she's got she's got the ability to put in a ceiling fan in the dining room, and she wants a pendant light over the table, but it's not being possible because of the fan. Should I put 4 small pendant lights in the corners? No. What you want to put in the corners is can lights. You want to put can lights in the 4 corners of the room to give you kind of that generalized feel of things. You do say that the fan is a necessity. Ooh, Megan, help me out here. Fans.
We have quite a few actually in the Design Club store. They were just added last week. And so you guys should definitely check them out because they are hand selected by Lisa and they're all fabulous. So if you want to know what a good looking fan looks like, go to the store, go to Ceiling Fans and check them out.
Yes. So hopefully that'll be some inspiration. And Michelle, I'm sorry, I don't know where you are. But a lot of these are US fans, but they might distribute to other parts of the globe. So you want to check that out, and they can be used as inspiration and then go find somebody that does something similar to that. So that's your solution there. All right. So let's see. The next one is, oh yes, Connie. Okay. So Dana, literally it's the next email up. It also says forward follow-up to Q&A. Now, again, if you guys saw Connie's submittal on the 23rd, Connie lives in Hawaii. How lucky is she? Although there are some limitations to living on an island in the middle of the Pacific, but it was relatively few in comparison. So we had suggested that she replace the large TV break front that she has in her break front etagere. That's not even an etagere. Anyway, she's replacing that with something that's lower and black. And my suggestion to you, Connie submitted a couple for choices. My suggestion is probably to do your second picture down, which is the curved. So I understand because so here's Connie's dilemma is being on an island. And I know you guys out there in the Caribbean and other places, you have these same limitations, is that there's only a few vendors that actually ship to islands, and Target is one of them. So we love some things from Target, which is great. So I'm voting for the second one down, which is the rounded edge. Yes, there we go. I love the idea of the raffia front one, but you don't have any other raffia anywhere in the cabinet. So that would have been anywhere in the room. So that would have been my first choice if you had raffia or rattan or something else repeated in that space, which would be very Hawaii. But I don't see it. You have a more transitional look. So my feeling is that you're probably better with one of the plain black ones, like the one with the rounded edge, or maybe the one that's got the straight front with the painted, so second or bottom picture. So I would choose one of those two. Now, my one caveat with the one with the rounded edges is you're going to have to be very circumspect about what you do with those open display shelves. And it could be a nice little bit of relief from the black to put in some display items there. Maybe there's some shelves or something like that, that decor wise look good down on those shelves because you're staring at it from across the room. All right. So the next one we're hitting is Amy. Let's see. Oh, I think Amy, I might have actually, I feel like I've seen your picture before, but I might have actually answered it online. I'm not sure. But oh yes, I think I did. Okay, so Amy, Dana, can you pull her pictures up for a second? Because she's got two pictures there. One of, she's doing a kitchen refresh, and she's going to paint all the cabinets in the perimeter white to match her crown molding. Great. Painting the island dark. We love both of those suggestions. Either blue, black, or dark gray. That's great. It looks like she has some lovely wood floors down there, which will be great. Counters are going to be Carrara marble. Woo, you are spending for it, baby. Carrara is one of my favorites. It's a little steep, but it is so gorgeous. And if it fits into the budget, hooray. We love that. Then she's talking about honed black granite on the perimeter counters. And that's where that's where things went askew for me. Honed black granite is, there's different types of honing, but with solid black granite, when you do a honing finish on it, it has kind of a matte, sort of a little bit of a dusty vibe to it. And that's going to feel very black in that kitchen. And what is that going to do, guys? That's going to create a belt line around that kitchen of contrast between the new white cabinets and that black countertop. And we don't want that. That's going to draw your eye to that and away from that gorgeous Carrara. So my suggestion is that you make the perimeter countertop something other than the honed black granite and when I say other, I mean softer color. If you can swing for the Carrara on all spaces, great. If you can't, consider doing a quartz that ties in with your Carrara that is a lighter color, maybe kind of an off-white. Maybe it has a little bit of patterning to it that you can't tell really one way or the other. Or you could also look at something like there's some really great quartzes out there that look like a softened taupe that kind of feel a little bit like the veining that happens in Carrara marble. So look for a color that will be pulled from the Carrara as opposed to the black, because I think you'll regret the black. Excuse me. Yes. Okay, good. But again, your assignment, Amy, we want to see afters. All right. Now, Robin submitted something, and Robin, honey, I don't have any permission to open these pictures. So if you'll send me permission, I actually emailed you about that. We'll hit you next time on that one. All right. So let's see if we've got time for.
Lisa, can I just jump in here really quick, Lisa?
Yes.
I actually can open it here on my end if you want to see it.
No, let's save it because
there's a lot of photos. There's a lot of photos.
There's a lot of photos, and I'll
There's
probably
a cute little
study them a
kitty
little
too.
bit.
Oh my God.
Oh, that's cute. Okay, so Robin, we're gonna get to you next time. Okay, so fear not. You are on our list. I'm gonna pop over to Barbara's question, which is probably one of our last ones we can take, and that is, she does not have pictures to it, but she's looking for a company that she could pay to convert her kitchen cabinet plans into 3D. And I wanted to talk about this for a second because she needs help with both with space planning and looking at her kitchen in 3D. Now, as Megan mentioned earlier, we have a couple of documents that'll allow you to plug your information into a floor plan online, and the floor plan can actually take it up into 3D. However, kitchens are super, super detailed and super complicated, especially in kitchen cabinets, how they lay out, how they meet at the corner, what's going where, what's a drawer, what's a pullout. There are so many details with that I would say this to you. You're going to have to buy those cabinets from someone. If you're getting them made custom, you're going to want to ask the vendor who you select to produce those drawings for you in 3D. 99.9% of all millwork and cabinet guys now have those programs because it is insanely hard to imagine a kitchen not in 3D. Now, if you're using a vendor, I'm going to use the word ProSource again. I'm not sure where you are, Barbara. You might be here in the US. If you're using a vendor like ProSource, who also handles, some of them handle kitchens, or you're using a kitchen showroom, then you can go into the kitchen showroom and say, this is my budget. This is what I want to look at in terms of reference points for, I want color, I want white, blah, blah, blah. I want wrapped, I want flat front, whatever it is you're looking for style statement wise to do that. And then part of their job in providing you those cabinets, part of their service is to provide you 3D mock-ups so that they can get your sign off. Because literally you have to sign off when you're redoing cabinets, you have to sign off on things like, do you want that corner cabinet to be 15 inches? Do you want it to be 18 inches? Maybe you need a 36-inch underneath your cooktop. It depends on how big your cooktop is, right? All of those details have to be signed off. I have documents for kitchens I've done that are literally this thick of 3D variations on the final design that we went through, because once you see it in 3D, it really makes a difference. So your vendor who you will be using to make those cabinets will be the person who should provide you those in 3D. Okay. Now, if you want to get just kind of a ballpark of a layout, then you can sketch something out in the plans that Megan's going to put into the put into the link into. You can sketch like, I want a galley kitchen in this area. You can sketch that out and just dummy up stuff to start with, if that's the point you're at. But if you're at the point where you're kind of, I know what I'm doing, or I know what type of kitchen I'm laying out, and I know I just need to know what cabinets I'm putting there, that's when you go to the vendor who actually is going to make them for it and make him do it. And quite frankly, don't use him if he doesn't give you a 3D, because you will not understand what you're buying. That's a very important understanding. You will not understand what you're buying unless you see it in 3D. So kitchens are like a do not pass go, do not move forward if they won't provide you those visuals. Now, for your space planning to buy a new dining table, that's easy. Those you can do in the plans ourselves, or yourself in the programs that we've got there. So, okay, how are we doing on time, guys? Oh my gosh, it's noon.
We made it.
How did that happen?
How 2 hours just like passed so quickly. I looked up at noon. Amazing. That's awesome.
Hey guys,
I didn't get any questions in the Q&A. Did we? Was there anybody else?
There's a couple, but there is one question actually from Amy, and she's wondering if there's a resource that lists all the steps for floor and paint projects. And she also says the Design Club is so helpful. Thank you, Amy. We do have. So the answer is yes, big time. We have several resources, both on flooring and on painting. But what I would suggest you do is join us for our next masterclass, which is for everyone. It's on February 12th at 12, and it's on painting. So Lisa's going to discuss all things painting, whether it's color, techniques, basically all the details that anyone would need to know if they're going to do a painting project. So definitely, again, February 12th at noon. Oh, and if you have questions, submit them ahead of time. As well. It's at askLisa@thedesignclub.com. So yeah, definitely, it's very helpful to Lisa if you submit your questions with photos if possible. So just kind of a little heads up there. But again, ask Lisa@thedesignclub.com. Submit your questions there ahead of time.
Yes. Yeah, and when you guys submit with photos, what it also does is it gives everybody who's watching a visual cue. So when Lisa's answering it, they understand. It's just much more entertaining for everybody.
Yes. So, and then I see one more quick question about Yannick about more of these deep dives. And he's asking for planning on a deep dive masterclass about wood. Megan, when is that coming up? Is that
I'm not sure about wood, stone, material in general, where to use, which to use, where, what to avoid. I don't know when that masterclass is. I know it's coming, but in the interim, I would suggest you take a peek at two resources. One is called Flooring Fundamentals, and it's in our library. And that covers actually, even though it applies to flooring, it gives you some major details on materials, as well as a Lisa's Brain article called Types of Tile and When to Use Them. So it depends on your application, but you're going to find quite a bit of info there in the meantime. But definitely there will be a masterclass on that because it's such a huge subject.
Yes, and Yannick, Megan's right, which is it's such a huge subject that I know we put it high on the thing. So I would be willing to bet, Megan, that it's sometime this month or early March. So we've got
and on the questions that were answered today, we have Renee about some window treatment question. We can get to that next time. That'll be our first question. So Renee, if you're online, make sure that you're there. And also, Jack, I don't know how to pronounce her name.
Jackie.
Is that Jackie? Oh,
I
okay.
assume.
Sorry.
I'm not sure. Jackie, you can tell us.
Yeah, but I know it's a beautiful space. It looks like an inspo picture, but she's got a good question too. So anyway.
Okay, great, you guys. I love it that you send these things in. You have no idea how much I look forward to these sessions with you guys, because we, having you all see these questions get answered often answers questions you may have that you didn't know you had yet, which I love because it's easy. There's so much to go over when you're doing design work, regardless of the scale of the project. There's so much to know and understand that I think these sessions, I hope, are really helpful for you guys. I know I enjoy them, so I hope you guys do too.
Well, yes, and Lisa, Jackie, I know that you're there. I see you. I see that you came in on chat, and she's got a gorgeous house, and she's looking about painting. So maybe we can get that first thing next time.
Yes. Let's do that. Let's do that. Let's
be online for next time. Okay.
Yes. Yay. All right. Great. Dana, Megan, thank you guys so much for helping me out with this. I could not do this without you guys.
Absolutely.
So.
Oh, our pleasure.
Sure.
All right, you guys. So now everybody out there that are listening, thanks so much. Oh, I see Squally was on. This is good. Okay. All right. So yes, everybody be sure and check your emails, because we do send out emails right before. Is it the day before? The day before and maybe the day of, I'm not sure. I know we're sending emails out, so make sure that we're not in anything coming from the Design Club is not going to your spam folder, because I did see.
And guys, and I want to say one more thing also, that I know we keep mentioning this, but we are actually coming out of our beta period, and we're actually going into the sort of the regular launch of the club. And we are going to be raising the prices for the Design Club. It was never supposed to be, $9 a month. It was just a way for us to get that started. But so if you want to have that grandfathered in, and then you want that pricing to be your pricing like forever, that is really inexpensive. And I'm telling you, it's more. That's more than even 100% discount from what it will be. So if you're in, you're in, and get your friends in too now before we put that new price up, because we're working on it.
It's coming. That's true. All right, you guys, great. Everyone, have
your grandfather. Wait. They say, how are we grandfathered in? You're grandfathered in because if you are a founding member and you're in here now, anybody who's here now, you're a founding member, you will become a regular full member, and your pricing won't go up. It just won't. So yay! But anyone new who comes in, I think we're looking at I don't want to say what it's going to be, but it's going to be more expensive than you guys are paying. So you are so lucky, and this is going to go on for a long time. So I'm sorry. I hope I took over the whole thing.
Oh, yes. And one more thing that I'm going to mention too. I know we're running over, but I'm going to mention this, which is thank you to Dana, because our poor editor has been down with COVID. So Dana has been doing double duty and
Editing.
Yes,
Yes.
editing all this kind of stuff. So we've gotten the 23rd up, but Dana, what's the next Q&A that we're going to publish that we've already recorded?
I'm going to try to get the last one up.
Okay,
Not
so-
today, but the
okay.
last one's already up. So we're working backwards. So you'll have one or two up this week.
Yeah, and I just thanked you. So yay, yes, I appreciate it too, because someone said I'm going to be flying. So I know there are times when you guys can't get to these live, and so we're trying to like make sure that we get them into there as fast as we possibly can. So bear with us. We're working day and night. All right, you guys, I love you so much. You have no idea. You make my day every time we do this. It's just it's so fun. And stay safe, stay warm, whoever's cold at the moment. I know that was a crazy story.
If we're warm, be cool.
And Squally and all of you guys down south, you just find a fan or an air conditioner.
Still is cold.
Yes, that's
Okay.
right. That's right. I look forward to talking to you guys next week. Stay safe until then. Be good. I love you guys.
Bye, you guys.
Bye, everyone.